We are back with another episode of the Black Box Podcast. I'm your host, John, and this time we have an interview with Robert Kerbeck. This is a really interesting one. Definitely, another one that's a little bit different than our usual go to with an entrepreneur, small business owner. Robert started out as an aspiring actor. He did make his way into a bunch of TV shows, so he was a working actor for a while, but then eventually made the career jump into sorry, corporate espionage and corporate spying for Fortune 500 companies trying to gain information on their competitors. So we go a lot into that, and we touch on some of his tactics and his history in the growth of that side and starting up his own firm. But we also speak on his new book, which came out about 9 months ago, which is related to his story of becoming a corporate spy, and that's called Ruse. Um, Robert is a great guy, great conversation, and he's got some things coming up. Ruse is being turned into a show right now, actually, so he's helping out a lot with that as like an associate producer in a way. But yeah, thanks again, Robert, and hope you guys enjoy this episode.
Hey guys, just wanted to shout out Zencaster, our platform of choice for recording remotely with our guests. They're sponsoring this episode, so tune in later to hear more about some really great offers. Hey y'all, we're really excited to tell you about Black Ice, the black-owned jewelry business owned by Sean Moore, our previous guest on the Black Box podcast. If you think about it, Black Ice and like Black Box, it's almost like it's meant to be.
Exactly. Yeah, but we like to focus on investing in the show, so we kind of look at it as we're partnering up with a asset class. Jewelry is considered an investment, and with the stock market and crypto being pretty volatile right now, and for the most part going down, jewelry, especially precious metals, gold and silver, those tend to preserve their value really well. So you know that's also another reason why we think it's a good opportunity. But also, I've worked with Sean in the past. I got a gift from my mother actually for Mother's Day. It was a relatively custom piece, nothing crazy, but Sean was quick, he was easy, he was responsive, the price was fair, and we just met up and transaction was easy, and my mom loved the gift. So
Yeah, if this all sounds good to you, check out Black Ice's website at Black Ice NYC, and at all socials. And there's a V instead of an A for the black. So, as you guys are probably used to with little letter substitutions by us, but you could find stock goods there. And Sean also specializes in custom goods with quick turnaround times.
yeah, Sean does great custom pieces. I've seen a bunch of them on his social media. But yeah, he's also good for sourcing, like watches, specific Rolexes, anything like that you're looking for. He can also get you a better price than, if you're going to, a bigger name shop or someone that you don't really know that might try to gouge you on the price. So along with that, it's also supporting an upcoming entrepreneur. He's had a lot of success. He just celebrated his 1 year anniversary of the business, had a really nice party. And
Let's get back to the show.
Alrighty, hey Robert, really appreciate you coming on and us being able to square away a date for this. I know I canceled on you once, but why don't you just take a minute to introduce yourself and then we'll get started.
Sure, sure. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Robert Kerbeck, and I've got this book out called Ruse, Lying the American Dream from Hollywood to Wall Street, from Penguin Random House, which is the crazy but true story of how a wannabe actor became the world's greatest corporate spy. Yeah, so it's my story about how, as a young guy, I was trying to be an actor. Actors need survival jobs, and I stumbled into this career as a corporate spy. At first, I kind of didn't really know what the heck that was, and then as time went on, I went from basically getting $8 an hour when I started doing this job in the early '90s to, at one point, I was making $2 million a year, spying for the largest publicly traded companies in the world.
Wow. Okay. So I guess in terms of the acting, have you always been based out of the area you are now? So I know it's kind of the hub for acting. Were you just trying to make it, and then you realized that you had to give it up at some point, or?
Yeah, well, I my hometown is Philadelphia. I moved to New York, and so I did a
Brotherly
lot of
love.
yeah, brotherly love. Thank you. Fly Eagles fly. We had a tough loss in the Super Bowl, but it was a great season.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I moved to New York, and I did a lot of really great stage work. I mean, I starred in plays. I got amazing reviews in the New York Times and the New Yorker magazine. I starred opposite James Gandolfini from The Sopranos when he was
Oh
a
wow.
young actor like me with nothing going on. I used to go see James perform in basements with six people in the audience. I starred opposite Callista Flockhart, who became a big star and is married to Harrison Ford. So I was a working actor, but even so, stage doesn't pay a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, I moved to Los Angeles. My agent sent me to LA, and I did about 50 major TV shows. I did Star Trek, ER, NYPD Blue,
Oh
Melrose
wow.
Place, on and on and on. If it was on in the 90s and early 2000s, I did it. And so the corporate spying was always kind of, my survival job. Oh, it was just temporary. I was going to be famous. I was going to make it big. And at a certain point, I booked a whole bunch of pilots, and none of the pilots that I booked got picked up. And that was the moment where all of a sudden I was like, wow, maybe this acting career isn't gonna, maybe I'm not gonna be a big giant star, or even be able to buy a home or have a family. And that was the moment where all of a sudden corporations were hearing about me. They were learning about me. Obviously, I don't you don't advertise being a corporate spy for obvious
Yeah.
reasons, but word of mouth was out there, and so all of a sudden, more and more companies started coming at me, and they just started throwing money at me, and basically, I took it. And that was the moment where I kind of crossed over to the dark side of corporate espionage and went pretty deep into doing some crazy things again for the largest companies and some of the smallest companies, private companies that are also we all know the Russians spy on the Chinese and the Chinese spy on us. Obviously, we had the recent the balloon incident.
Yeah.
But what most people were shocked to find out is that corporations, large and small, public and private, spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year to spy on each other.
Okay. So I guess I'm just gonna start and say, how do you like get the jobs? I know you said it's word of mouth, but is it like you're being hired by the company to spy on itself, or you're being hired by a company to spy on a competitor?
It's always in my career. It was always high. I was always hired to spy on competitors, right?
Okay.
We chatted just now briefly about football, and you think about if you could get the playbook on your opponent, 2 or 3 days before the Super Bowl, before the big game,
Gonna be
how
easier for you
value.
to win. Yeah.
My God, come on, it would be incredibly valuable. And so that's what corporations want spies to do. They want to know what their competitors up to. They want to know who the top talent is at their competitor. They want to know are they expanding? Are they contracting? Are they moving in locations? What's their pricing? New products? Anything and everything that can give my client a competitive advantage. And again, to use the football analogy, we know how competitive it is to win the Super Bowl. We know how competitive it is to win the NBA championship. Corporate America is the same.
Yeah.
These people want to win.
They'll do anything it takes.
That's right. Elon Musk wants to win, right? Jeff Bezos wants to win. If you're a C-level executive at a firm, you want to win because that's how you keep your job. That's how your stock price of your company goes up. That's how you get a bigger bonus check. And so you're willing to do anything and everything to win.
And I guess my next question would be is have you ever gotten into like legal complications because of this? How legal are the things that you're doing or illegal, I guess I could say. You're also not doing these activities anymore, right? Like you're retired from them.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
I wouldn't be
you
able.
can share some of the secrets and things like that.
That's right.
You wouldn't be out here yet.
I wouldn't have written the book Ruse and
Gotcha.
outed myself as a spy if I was still spying. That wouldn't be very
Makes sense.
smart,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Yeah.
Just want to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. 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 No, thanks for asking. Yeah. So um, I think when we first started doing this job, we were just actors and we were nervous about the legality of it, and so we went and we met with an attorney, and the attorney said that what we were doing was in the gray, the very dark gray. he said, I don't know of anyone who's ever been, prosecuted for the stuff that you're doing, but I'm not saying it could not happen. And certainly, if a particular company learned that you were spying on them and they felt like, secrets had been revealed or whatever, it was not outside the realm of possibility that they could come after you. And without spoiling it for any potential listeners who want to buy my book or get it on Audible, because I narrated the audio book, which is kind of cool because
That's cool.
it's my story, it's true, so it made sense for me to narrate it. And of course, I was a former actor, so. Yeah, we had some close calls with the authorities. Let me just leave it at that. At one point, we were being hunted by basically every authority in the U.S. They had stumbled onto our trail because they thought we were the most famous hacker in the world, and they thought that we were trying to shut down the internet. This is '90s when the internet was just becoming commercially accessible,
That's
and they
crazy.
thought that's what we were trying to do. And we had to explain, no, 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 we're just corporate spies. It's not that bad.
Yeah, yeah, it's different. It's different.
It's
Wait,
different.
that leads me into a good point that we were talking about before we started the recording. Is what you're doing wasn't hacking where you get into a computer, break some encryptions, and
Hmm.
access like the back end database or something. What you were doing was more of people hacking. And I
That's
guess if
right.
you could kind of touch on that a little bit, I think that would be good for everyone.
Yeah, well, so we know now today, cybercrime is a massive issue. Ransomware attacks are huge, and just getting greater every day and
Yeah,
more intense every day. There's more at stake financially. Um, cybercrime. I think I saw something. It's going to be $1 trillion industry in the next couple of years. Cybersecurity, um, and corporations obviously are spending a lot of money to protect their systems, right? Their
hmm,
servers, their network, the firewall, the encryption, great, makes a lot of sense. But what they don't do is they don't spend nearly enough time and certainly not enough money working to train and educate their employees so they're just as secure on the human end. And I always say to people, I don't need to hack your systems if I can hack your people. If I can get your people to tell me their password, to explain to me how your system works, how it's set up, how the architecture, everything and
yeah,
anything, then what I do, and this is very common, or what I would do because I'm not a spot now, is I would then share that with my hacking cohort, right? So I'd
yeah,
have all of this information about how your systems were set up, and I would use my social engineering to get all kinds of intelligence to make the hacking basically child's play, right? And that's one of the things, these ransomware gangs, because they're usually small gangs, it's almost like Mission Impossible, where they have 2 or 3 or 4 people on their team, and each person has a skill set. So there's the social engineer, they go in first, they learn all kinds of information, then they give that information to the hacker. Hacker, boom, gets in, does what they need to do. Then they turn it over to the financial instruments expert because their job is to go, okay, now we're gonna get paid money from this company now because we've shut them down or we're threatening to shut them down.
yeah,
And we need to make sure we can receive this money in a way that we don't get caught. It doesn't get traced back to us. So you can see how that's why they need these
yeah,
gangs, because everybody's got different skill sets, and together it's very, very difficult to stop that kind of stuff, especially if you're not training your people, especially junior people,
yeah,
young people, that don't know, and are easily, if I'm going to call a junior person to try to get information out of them, and I'm going to pose as some senior executive. And by the way, one of the things we would do, because we were all actors, what are actors good at? Acting, right? That we're
yep,
good at doing accents, imitating voices, um, creating stories, improvisational skills. And so we would use all of these skills in a social engineering phone call, what I call a ruse phone call, hence the title of my
yeah,
book. And we would use all of that. Oh, this is Gerhard calling from the office in Frankfurt, Germany. We have the European Union regulators here. We need some information in the States. And the person on the other end of the phone, what are they going to do? Oh, wow. Hey, Gerhard, buddy, how's it going? Oh, you're in
yeah,
our Frankfurt office? Oh, great. Oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, you're jammed up? What are people taught? Be a good teammate. in corporate America, or, in corporations all over the world.
Yeah.
Firms now have offices everywhere. There's the Dublin office, the London office, the Tokyo office, the Charlotte office, the Dallas office, the San Francisco office. And so now you think you've got a major executive in a foreign office. Maybe you know the person's name. You probably haven't spoken to them, especially if you're a junior
Yep.
person, but you can look them up right away and go, oh my God, I have the head of compliance for Europe on the phone. Wow, I better help him. And now you're telling me all these things you should not tell me because you've not verified me. And that's one of the things that if you're not doing what we call penetration testing, you're a tech guy, you know what that is. A lot of firms hire outside firms to try to break through their systems, to try to hack their systems, but they don't do the same penetration testing on the human side. Is, hey, let's see if we can hire Robert, and let's see if Robert can break through our human element and get people to tell us stuff that then enables him or his team, if he had a team of hackers, to then
Yeah.
hack our systems. And I'm here to tell you, even today, social engineering phone call, the Ruse phone call, is alive and well. In 45 minutes, I generally could find out anything I want to know about your company.
Podcasting remotely can be challenging, but with Zencaster, the process becomes much easier. Zencaster is an all-in-one web-based solution that makes the process pretty painless and simple. Um, Zencaster allows to bring you guys, our listeners, the best quality by providing crystal clear audio and gorgeous HD video when we record with our guests. Zencaster is also easy to use for new users and guests. So, when we have people on the podcast who haven't used the platform before, we pretty much just tell them to show up with a computer, mic, and headphones, and you're pretty much good to go. Zencaster is pretty plug and play. But from local recording to automated post-production tools, you don't even have to leave the browser to finish off your episode. Use the code zen.ai/blackbox and enter our promo code blackbox. You'll get 30% off the first 3 months of Zencaster Pro. It's time to share your story. That's okay. That was a lot, but that's insane. So I mean, it totally makes a lot of sense. Were they originally like marketing this job to actors because they knew that they had the skill that they could, incorporate some improv while?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
The,
it makes
what,
sense. Makes sense.
the woman who hired me, who had a spying firm, back in the 90s when I started, and then eventually I went out on my own and I started my own spying firm. And I had people working for me. We only hired actors because you needed an actor. Now, a lot of actors still couldn't do the job. As a matter of
Yeah,
fact, hundreds of people, maybe even thousands of people tried to do this job, and almost none of them worked out because the combination of skills that you had to have for this job. Obviously, you had to have all these acting kind of skills, but you still needed a business sense. You still needed to understand a little bit about how corporations worked.
understand
And
that
so,
jargon a bit.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. And if you didn't have that combination of skills, you know, um, just a pure actor just often kind of wasn't able to do the job because they didn't understand how to, like, what the information meant and how to kind of dig deep to get it. I come from a business family. My family were entrepreneurs, and that
cool.
combination of skills is what made me successful.
Okay, great, great. And I guess I have a follow up to this. Is I don't if you want to save it for the book or if you talk about it in the book, that's okay. But were there any times where you got into some really sticky situations, and if you could, maybe just talk about it a little bit, where maybe you were in a call and you
Oh
could tell
yeah,
people were onto you, and then
oh yeah.
what do you do at that point? Do you just back out of the call, or you just keep
Uh,
trying to go and like?
Great question, fantastic question. As a matter of fact, that's like one of the best questions anyone's ever asked me.
Thank you, thank you.
So you've got somebody in the other end of the line. They're not believing you, right? Happens all the time, right? Happens all the time. But what we don't want them to do is we don't want them to pull the fire alarm, right? And all of a sudden they're like,
Yeah,
hey, I don't believe you. And they hang up the phone and now they send out an email to, cybersecurity or the head of compliance or the head of legal. And then that person now sends an email out to the whole company. Hey, we've got these people phishing. We've got these people trying to hack. We don't want that because I don't want the alarm bells going off. So what we do is when this person is giving me a hard time and I sense they're not going to give me the information and they're like, you know what? I don't believe this. Send me an email right now. Send me an email right now. Well, I can't send them an email right now because it's not
yeah.
going to come
You're
from
not
the
in the
company.
system. Yeah,
Right. So what I say is, sure, I will send out an email right now and it will tell you exactly what I'm doing, exactly why I'm doing it. I will CC your boss on it so you know everything's okay. And they go, oh, okay. Oh, no, no, no. Look, I'm
So,
sorry to give you a hard time, but
so
just send
okay.
me that email. Send me that email. I say, you will have it within an hour. You will have it. Okay. Okay. Look, I didn't mean to be giving you a hard time. I just need to see that email. And then no problem. I'll get that to you within an hour. And you know what? I'm a little jammed up. So, if you don't see it within an hour, worst case scenario, I will have it to you by the end of the day. Okay. Okay. Look, if I get really crazy, end of the day or first thing tomorrow, you'll have it. Promise. First thing tomorrow at the latest. Okay, great. Well, what have I done? What have I done? I've put this person to sleep because now they're not pulling the alarm switch.
Yeah.
They're waiting on an email that's never going to come. But I bought myself time because now they're not saying anything today, maybe not even tomorrow. And then all of a sudden they're going to go, oh my God, I never got that email from that guy. Meanwhile, I'm now calling somebody
Okay.
else
I
with it.
was gonna say during that time you're trying to do it to someone else, so you're giving yourself like
Correct.
a window. I guess then what in the situation where um let's say you try on multiple different people and you pull the same kind of tactic if they're not believing you, then what happens? Do you kind of just like fall back to the wayside and hope they don't pursue it?
Well, look, the reason that I was hired, by the biggest companies in the world was because I got the information, and I didn't get the information some of the time. I didn't get the information most of the time. I got the information 99.9999999% of the time.
Okay,
And
okay.
so me, I was very good at sensing when someone was not going to cooperate, and then I would, like I said, I would put them to sleep. And so if I then called somebody else, I would do the same thing to them. But we were good. We were so good at the job that a lot of times I could hear in your voice the second you got on the phone whether you were going to give me information or not. And if you weren't, sometimes I would pull out of the call before I even asked a lot of questions,
Before
before
you
the
had time
alarm,
to make
before the
yourself suspicious.
exactly. I'd go, oh, hey, I just needed to send him a document. Just needed his title. Oh, he's the senior vice president of compliance. Uh, okay, that was it. That was all I needed. Great. I'll get that. I'll get that email over to you. Okay, thank you. You know, and I didn't even ask them any suspicious questions about anything. It's just very generic corporate stuff. Because I could just tell that the person, the tone of their voice, that just didn't seem like they were going to be helpful. I'm looking for someone that wants to be my friend you know.
Yeah.
So, hey, how's it going? If I get that, that person's not going to help me. But if I go, hey, how's it going? Oh, well, pretty not
Another
so
day.
great. Yeah, I got to work for a living. How good could I be? Okay, now this person I can work with, right? They're
Yeah.
friendly, and that's what you're looking for is somebody that you can establish a rapport with, and then you're gonna work that to your advantage.
So when you came on to the first firm you were working with, was there like a training that they put you through to figure this stuff out, or this was all kind of accumulated over time through trial and error?
A little bit of both. I mean, there was some training, but it was pretty modest. It
Yeah.
was pretty much you were thrown onto the phone, day one. I mean, minute one. Now, what I learned later on when I was training spies, is I would put people on the phone right away because you had to know if people were going to panic and if they were going to be able to stay on the phone and improvise on the phone. And when they did get busted, which is what we would call when somebody shut you down, which of course was inevitable,
Yeah.
did it wreck their confidence so that they were like, oh, I can't do this, which was very often the case. As soon as somebody got shut down hard, they were like, okay, I can't do this job. Whereas other people would go, oh, you know what, I'm going to find a way to get this information. I'm not going to get stopped. And that's what you need to be a corporate spy. You need it. So there was training in the beginning, but most of the stuff that we um, developed in terms of these ploys, in the book, there's the compliance ploy, there's the inside ploy, there's the dropping the grapefruit ploy. There are all these different ploys that I delineate in terms of how we get people to tell us stuff that they should never ever tell us. And we developed these ploys over time as we began to learn what worked, what didn't work, and why things didn't work. And then we would change them and correct them.
And so I guess like your firm, were they around for a while by the time you came on, or I feel like during the '90s was kind of when this stuff started to really develop. So were you leading the development of the technique and the documentation for the technique?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I mean, in the book, there's another character named Pax, and he's the guy who got me the job in the first place, and he and I were the ones that really developed these, social engineering, ruse techniques, ruse ploys. um, and now, obviously, I've written this book, and as a result of the book, I get asked to speak to corporations, go to conferences. I've been to RSA in San Francisco now. A couple of vendors brought me up there to talk to companies, because the social engineering phone call, as I said earlier, it's alive and well, and it's a major element of these ransomware attacks. And so the ploys that I delineate in Ruse are being used today for kind of much more serious issues. We were kind of getting, basic corporate information, where we weren't, insider trading off of our information. We weren't getting the credit card numbers of the elderly.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
weren't, and that's not to say I'm justifying what I did. And in the book, I reckon with the moral issues of corporate spying, throughout the book. But
definitely.
but the ransomware attacks, where they're literally shutting down firms and trying to get millions of dollars, and in some cases significantly more, that's like a whole nother level now. And so now I try to show people how these ploys work and how to stop them. I basically give them the defense, to what I used to use for offense.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think that's really good that now you've kind of come to terms with the past and what you did and had to do during that time, but now you're willing to help and put up a defense for other companies. Also, the other point you touched on, especially with crypto now, it's because there's the anonymity
Yeah.
on the blockchain. It's just a huge problem right now that people are we're seeing it all the time. Whole exchanges are getting drained of their wallets and user funds, which is you know, there's going to be a new round of defenses that companies learn and ways to work around that. But I think this is an important conversation for that reason too. I'll bring up the book now too, I guess, as we kind of come towards not the final stretch, but we're getting there. I guess when did you write and release the book first, and then I guess how did you go about releasing it, marketing it, and getting it out to the masses?
Sure. So, I was at a writers conference some years ago, and I read, just like an early bit from the book, and people freaked out about it, and which was, was kind of surprising to me. But basically, they were saying, we had no idea this kind of corporate spying went on. This is insane. This is crazy. This is fun. A lot of the shenanigans and hijinks that we did to get information are hilarious, because they're just crazy, like the German accent, the Irish accent, crying on the phone. A
Yeah,
lot of the female spies would cry on the phone, like, I'm going to get fired if I don't get this information. And I would think, there's no way somebody is going to give you information over the phone because you're crying. And it worked every single time. So there's a lot of fun stuff in the book. And when I was at this conference, it just, the reaction made me realize I had to write the book. It kind of had been in the back of my mind. So then I wrote the book, and of course I timed the book to come out right when the statute of limitations expired on any potential crimes that I may or may not have committed. And the book got bought by Penguin Random House, which is obviously a really big publisher, and
yeah,
they have done a tremendous job marketing the book. One of the coolest things was this man Frank Abagnale, who wrote the book Catch Me If You Can, which was made into a really wonderful
yeah.
movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. He read the book, and he flipped over the book, and he gave me a blurb, basically a testimonial, which the publisher put on the front cover. So, when Frank Abagnale, when the Catch Me If You Can guy says this book is fun, you got to read it, that was just a really great thing. And then also, as a result of his kind blurb, Hollywood got wind of it, and now Ruse is in development for a TV series.
Really, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're gonna
Yeah.
be involved with that,
Yeah,
or
yeah, I'm going to be not as an actor, of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
because my
Oh,
acting days are in the past. I just write now. But
okay.
yeah, no, I'll be, what they call a consulting producer, and involved with, helping develop the stories and the content. So yeah,
I guess
really exciting.
they'll be referencing you for any questions related to
Yeah,
how did this situation go and stuff like that. That's really
yeah.
cool. Congratulations. So I guess everything worked out naturally, but also in a way that was completely in your favor. Like people picking it up, the right people seeing it.
Yeah, again, one of the reasons the publisher bought it is they said no one's ever written a book before
Yeah.
that was a corporate spy. Like, there are dry books, like kind of more textbooky, or but there's not,
Yeah, I
you
get
know
what you mean.
yeah, like, what one of the reviews was very nice. I can't remember if it was a New York Post, but one of the reviews said that the book reads like a spy novel, like a spy thriller, which really meant a lot to me because the book is nonfiction, so it's all true,
Yeah.
but it reads like a spy novel because it is a spy novel, but it's everything in the book is true.
Okay, cool. Um, and I guess I wanted to bring this up, but I don't know if it's entirely related. You have another book that you released, right?
Yeah,
Malibu Burning.
yeah, which was about the terrible wildfire a couple of years ago. I live in Malibu, and we had this horrific wildfire that burned down, almost half the town.
Yeah.
17 of 19 homes on my street burned to the ground, and my family, we fought the fire and saved our house. And then the LA Times asked me to write an essay about that, which I did. And then a publisher read that essay and asked me to write a book about the fire, which I did. And it was a real labor of love because, your audience, everybody thinks Malibu, oh, everybody's rich and famous, blah, blah, blah. And I'm here to tell you that maybe if you live on the ocean side of the Pacific Coast Highway by the
Yeah.
beach, you're rich and famous, but, up in the mountains and in the canyons, in the hills, retired firefighters and sheriffs and teachers and broke surfers and elderly, and those were the people, unfortunately, that lost their homes, and those were the people that came together in many cases and saved homes, and sometimes people stayed behind and saved entire communities by themselves. And so I wrote a book to really show kind of that level of community and spirit in Malibu, which a lot of people don't even, they have no idea.
I'm not gonna lie, that gave me chills. That's insane. So
Mm.
I mean, like, how did you do that? How
Fight
yeah,
fight the
fight the
fire.
fire. Yeah, I mean, did you had like a hose or like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When my wife and I bought our house, a surfer friend who is born and raised in Malibu said, you're going to have to fight a fire someday to save your house." And I said, "What?" I'm
what
from
the heck?
Philadelphia. I figure you just call 911 and the fire
Yeah,
department comes. And he said there will be no firefighters on the day of the fire. One, because they'll be overwhelmed, and
yeah.
two, because a lot of times firefighters will not come up into the hills and canyons because they
They'll get
don't want
trapped. Yeah,
they don't want to get trapped, they don't want to get hurt, they don't want to get injured, and so basically you're on your own. Um, so we, had a fire pump, we had fire hoses, and we had a chemical called Phos-Chek, which is the same chemical that the fire department and the fire planes drop on fires to put the fires out. And what you can do is you can spray your house with this stuff, and it basically creates a gel like a barrier. And so
yeah.
we sprayed our entire house, and our neighborhood was decimated. 2/3 of the homes were gone, and our home was one of the few that survived.
That's incredible. I mean, was it like at that point the fires came in and just because that protection that it had over it, it wasn't flammable at that point and it didn't
Uh,
catch?
I mean, look,
Yeah,
that had to be
yeah,
because every home around us burned. Why did our home not burn? Because we
probably
sprayed it with
because.
the Phos-Chek. Yeah,
Okay, wow,
yeah,
that's incredible. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look into that because I remember reading. I forget who it was, but someone was talking about their home got taken in one of the most recent fires in the last couple of years, and that stuck with me. But I
yeah.
guess uh I mean, I guess what's next for you then in terms of, I mean, off of that book, but just in general for your career? Are you still just focusing on marketing Ruse and marketing Malibu Burning, or is there something else on the horizon for you?
Well, it's a great question. Yeah, so I'm winding down the Ruse promotion, because Ruse came out, I guess it was about 9 months ago, and generally, your publisher asks the author to promote the book for about a year.
Okay.
And look, I'm sure there'll still be other events because corporate
Yeah.
spying is not going away, and anytime there's some big, like with the Chinese spy balloon, I got all these people reaching out to me asking me to talk
Yeah.
about it, right? So and anytime there's another wildfire, people reach out to me to talk about it, right? So, but yeah, so it's getting close to time to move on. I have another book. This one is fiction, and it's about a world-renowned antique Islamic carpet dealer, and his train wreck of a life, and it's called Sex, Rugs, and Rock and Roll.
I like that. I like that. I guess you're in development of that, and is
Yeah,
that
that book is almost finished,
okay?
and then as soon as it's finished, which will be any day, then I give it to my agent, and then my agent sends it over to publishers and says, "Hey, read this book. It's kind of like Ruse, but it's this one's fiction. It's about a con man, with a heart of gold,
Yeah,
and how he goes from being not such a nice guy to turning his life around." And they send the book out to publishers, and then hopefully somebody jumps up and down and says, "Oh, we love this book, we want to buy it," and then they begin the process of publishing it and getting it out to people like you.
and I guess I mean I know every book has to be good for it to get taken up and go into the
Hmm.
editing and releasing process, but because you've already had now a history of releasing two successful books, I guess that kind of helps you, right? And you made the right connections in that industry.
Yeah, I think so. I think getting the first book published is the hardest. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so. Yeah, and especially if your books do well and they're well reviewed, it just gets a lot easier each book. Yeah, because now people are like, okay, well, we know Robert's books are good, and we know people like them, so yeah, we'll buy this book. Yeah.
okay, makes sense. Um, yeah, no, I wish you the best of luck on that one too. And also, you said you're going to be uh, what a producer
Yeah,
or for
consulting
that upcoming show,
producer. Yeah,
consulting
yeah,
producer. Yep.
yeah, and that actually is a lot. It's a lot more work and time than I think I probably initially thought. Because I've got to do calls with the production company and the showrunner and the head of scripted, and we do calls frequently. Talking
Yeah.
about stuff, and it is it's fun, but I didn't realize how much time was involved. I mean, obviously creating a TV show, right? But I didn't know, for me it would be as
Your
much
role.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you assumed initially it would be like, all right, some touch points just for them to get a better
Yeah.
feel for how the time was and how you were feeling during that point. But they're,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like with TV, they want all the details, so they're going to constantly be referencing you again and again.
Right. Well, a lot of times what happens is the studio or the production company, they buy your book. It's called optioning your book. They option your book, and then they say, "Okay, Mr. Writer, thank you so much. See you later. Bye."
Yeah, and then they
And
do
then
their own
and then
spin on it.
yeah, and they do their own spin on it. But because this is a true story, and because they hope the series runs for years, and they know they're going to need content, and they know my book is only I don't know how many pages it is to say 300
Yeah,
pages. It's not a long book. It's a page turner. It's a fast read. Um, but they know they're going to need more content, and they know, in 20 years of being a spy, I have more than 300
yeah.
pages of content. I've got 3,000 pages of content. And so they want that other content.
Understood, understood. Okay. So I guess the book you kind of just sharing the highlights, but there's
Yeah.
definitely plenty more stories to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I guess this would be a good time to start wrapping it up, but I want to give you a minute or two, however long you want, just to put out social media, reiterate the title of the books and where they could get them, the listeners, if you want to go
Oh,
for
I,
that.
pre- I I appreciate that.
Of course.
Yeah, I always tell people the easiest thing is just to go to my website. It's my name, Robert Kerbeck, Kerbeck, .com. You can buy Ruse there. You can buy Malibu Burning there. You can read a whole bunch of essays and different things I've written. And the thing I like the most is you can see the trailer for Ruse is on my website, so you can get a sense of what the TV series will be like.
Cool, cool. I'm gonna have to check that out myself. I'm probably gonna tune into the show. Uh, cool. Anything else?
No, I think that's
Okay,
great. And
cool.
you can email me right from my site, and you can follow me on social media right from my site. And there's no filter. If you email me from my site, the person responding is going to be me. I do all my own social media. Maybe I'm not the best at it, not the worst at it, but if you have questions, if you're looking to pivot into a career as a corporate spy, let me tell you, there's plenty of work out there. I'll help you figure out how to do it. I may be done with the business, but if you want to get your James Bond on, let me know.
All right, guys. Anyone listening want to get into that? Just hit them up. But yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on and sharing, your story. I think it's really unique. Like you said, there's not many books or stories out there, people being corporate spies.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, first I'll apologize for the lighting. I'm still getting used to my setup here, so the blinds aren't that great. Maybe I'll have to move the desk around a bit. I know the light's all over my face this whole time, but it's all good. Still a great
Yeah, it's all
episode.
right.
Um, yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it for me. You guys know where to reach us. Black Box Podcast, No A in the Black on Instagram, Twitter. Black Box Podcast with an A in the Black on TikTok. And yeah, everyone knows now we're on YouTube. So tune in to see this episode on YouTube, even though my face will be all over the place.
Well,
Your hair looks good, though. I know you took time to do that before.
Well, it's funny. You look like you're in jail, right? You look like you got the
I got
prison
the bars
bars.
up my. That's what I was thinking. I was like, but nothing you could do. It's all good. We'll figure it out next time. But thank you so much again. Appreciate it. And we'll keep in touch.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
All right. Appreciate it. Bye.